Hello.
Good evening, and welcome to Ventisquero Wines.
Indeed. We are, for those of you who have been with us for a while, welcome back. It's very nice to see you all again. And for those who haven't, a very, very warm welcome. This is a really fun event tonight. We've got somebody from the winery themselves joining us live to tell us all about the stories behind the scenes. And it's great to do the deep dive into this. Now, Ellie she's been trying to join us and is just trying a different computer. But what we're going to do, I think, first is have a little bit of an introduction.
Absolutely. So before we dive onto that very quickly, for those who joined us first time, we have Slido, so we can get TOWTC.co.uk/taste.
I haven't done that.
Have you not done that?
I haven't done that.
He's not done that.
No, I haven't done that.
Okay, so you'll have a QR code to pop up so you can pop your tasting notes in, vote for your wine night. But please, we've got Ellie Owen on, who's a wine educator and with Ventisquero. So she will be on to answer any questions, anything that you want to know about it. We've got 6 brilliant wines. I'm kind of like, I went to South America last year. I didn't get to this particular winery, but it's great to kind of see the videos, see the mountains, see the stories, see all that kind of good stuff. What is he doing?
It's called Don't Try
This at Home.
Live.
Exactly.
Okay, right. Sorry, chaps. We're having all sorts of IT fun here. I've got to kill that, haven't I? Right, you talk to people, and I will just keep doing this.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
So I think we've got a little intro video. It's me doing playing with videos and doing my little intro promotional thing. So it just kind of gives you an overview. Just it's pretty pictures of the area in the vineyards because it's nice. So what we're going to do, we're going to pop this on. You've got a couple of minutes of just hanging out and looking at lovely vineyards. Feel free to get wine number 1 in the glass, but don't down it because we need to come back and chat about it because I think it's all the wines are brilliant, but it's a really interesting wine from a really interesting region. So let's have
it's worth making a note that your beard has grown. See, it happens progressively, and I don't notice these things quite so much.
Exactly.
But yes, there we go. Well, pour wine number 1 in the glass. The Slido code is 652. Do join us. I will move it on now so that we can start putting in our tasting notes. But yes, do let us know what you think. There's no right or wrong answers with the tasting notes, are there? It's just whatever you think.
Exactly. But let's go to the video.
Indeed. Right.
So brilliant. Well, hey, for not downing it, you've definitely flown into the tasting notes.
Wow, that's fantastic.
So this is Ventisquero is brilliant winery, and they have plots all over Chile, north and south.
Unlike
north
us,
to south.
We've lost the plot. You see what I did there?
Wow. Wow. Well, this is what happens, you know. Last month after I came back from Humia, I had the content, the jokes of this, and this month Alex has the jokes, unfortunately. Yes, Kathy's taken her tasting packs to Argentina, to South America, to see what's going on. So Ventisquero, and we'll just talk a little bit about the Sauvignon Blanc first before we really kind of dive into the winery itself, because this was one of the when we first opened up and before we dived into the world of online tasting, we did a Ventisquero tasting at Tring Winery, and this was one of the wines that I thought was absolutely fabulous. Sauvignon Blanc goes all over the world, and the different places takes on a different level of terroir, different level of style. You look at what you get from Marlborough versus what you get in Sancerre versus what you get in Pouilly versus what you get coastal South Africa versus what you get here in the Atacama Desert. So this is kind of up in northern. Have we got some sound?
Have
we got sound?
Yes!
Yes!
Oh,
yeah. The live streaming gods have smiled down upon us for once.
Oh my goodness me.
I got to the stage. I've told people, that we're in the Atacama Desert. Now that's where I got to. That's where I got to. But no, I absolutely love this winery, and I'm really excited that you've given us your time to come on and kind of talk through the wines with us. So if you just kind of want to start and just introduce yourself and what you do and why you're here, and you can see people have got their tasting notes going in already, so they're getting well into this this Sauvignon Blanc. So I'll hand over to you.
Love it. So I'm Ellie, sommelier really, and then have been working with Ventisquero for just over a year. Haven't been to Chile yet, Jamie. So I saw you've been over there. So I'm looking forward to hearing all your stories about it as well, sort of that sense of place and stuff. But to be honest, before I started working with Ventisquero, I wasn't very familiar with Chilean wine. So this has been a real kind of year of learning, understanding. And it's absolutely fantastic because it's a fantastic winery. We do some amazing wine. So it's always a joy to show them, to be honest. And the wines, I always get told off for saying this because I always say the wines speak for themselves. And everyone's like, you do want a job, don't you? I'm like, well, yeah, but the wines are really good. And I think what they do is they just have this, which I'm sure you're going to experience, or the people that haven't tasted them are going to experience. But as you mentioned, they're just really fantastic examples of some varieties we're all quite familiar with, but actually the expression of them, I think there is something really lovely and unique about what Ventisquero are able to do with those varieties. So
yeah, I completely agree. I think it's one of Ventisquero is one of the wineries, and the reason why we wanted to feature it is that it has put such an individual take on so many of these classic wines. And I think when we talk about the sense of place to Chile, it is really difficult to describe that because Chile is such a long country, and of so many completely, utterly different terroir, and you can't really almost put one sense of place on it, but it has to be down to these individual sub-regions, from, like you say, the desert right down to the cooler regions of the south.
Absolutely. Did you know we're only 2.5 Chiles away from Chile? If you measure it in lengths of Chiles.
They've been playing around with this tool that measures everything in the world compared to the length of Chile, and it turns out what's your crazy fact?
4.5 Chiles is the furthest you can get away from Chile. that has got nothing to do with the season's wine tasting.
No, it has not.
Geographical.
This is nice. I like this one.
But yeah, just as we're let's talk a little bit more about this wine because people have got the first wine in the glass.
Of course, yeah.
Then when we go, it's kind of working backwards. Then when we get back onto wine number 2, maybe we can do a little bit of an intro to a little bit of the history and stuff like that. But I think this is a brilliant place that it makes no sense. There should not be any grapes here. There should not be any wine here. One of the driest places in the world. And they can't irrigate it normally because they would kill everything. They have to flood it, don't they? They flood it once or twice a year because otherwise the salt content would be too high to get anything. Is that right?
I think it is about that. But I actually think it's more than that. I think they have to flood it nearly every 2 weeks. Otherwise, the salt crystals form across the roots and just suffocate the vines. So it's quite specific.
Wow. Yeah. That's crazy. But it gives it this completely, utterly intense, unique style that I've never had from a Sauvignon anywhere else. So yeah,
completely agree. It's
so
got this like
can you pull the map up, Alex, so people can just kind of see where we are? So when we talk about Chile, we kind of, I think a lot of the time we base ourselves of going into Santiago, and then there's a lot of wineries around there, and then you can go up north or you can go a little bit further south. So we're really up in the north here, aren't we, Ali?
Really, and nearly, I think we are one of the, they actually have grown grapes here for quite a long time, but they just haven't grown grapes like commercially. And so I think we're one of the first wineries to be able to produce wine from this region. And so, we are really far north. The Atacama Desert, the driest desert in the world, always sounds utterly bonkers saying that, because I thought deserts are pretty blooming dry regardless. But we are the driest desert in the world. But actually, the vineyard is quite close to the coast. So we have this really specific fog. It's got a name, and I can't pronounce it, so I'm not going to do it any injustice. But as this particular fog comes in, it's really dense, and it just helps kind of create that.
I can't correct you, so don't worry.
It's like cachaça or something, but this particular fog comes in and really helps sort of obviously mediate that temperature. But obviously, the dew in the morning really helps to help a little bit nourish those vines.
You see that along a lot of the whole of the western coasts of the Americas. Like, you see it right up in San Francisco in the Bay Area, where it goes from you being 40 degrees in let's say Mountain View in Silicon Valley, and you go just across the mountain range and it drops down to about 5. And it brings in all this moisture that comes in from the water, and as it rises up, it just drops it down, and it's a crazy phenomenon. I mean, we made the mistake of going to the western coast of the Americas in the middle of summer, thinking it would be beautiful and sunny, and we had not brought enough kind of jumpers for this. But so that's in this case, that's really bringing in the moisture that the vines need, but it's still not enough.
It's not enough. We also have the river system, the Huasco, again, probably pronounced that wrong, but Huasco River. So that really helps us to have that availability of the water. And the other thing that, although the Atacama is one of the driest deserts in the world, I mean, sometimes they say they might not even rain for years. I think actually last year they had this phenomenon where it had this rain and the desert erupted into these beautiful flowers, sort of wild flowers everywhere. So actually it might have, quite a few years where it might not have any rain, but actually the other thing about it is that it's not actually the coldest. So it ranges from about 7 to about 25 degrees. So 7 in the kind of winter and about 25 degrees in the summer. So it doesn't quite reach those, although it's dry, it doesn't quite reach those kind of real desert, 40 degrees or whatever it must be in some deserts. So it's a really unique kind of sort of geology to that. And you sort of alluded to that earlier with Chile being so long. And Jamie, you probably know this, you measure it by Chiles, but and I missed the first bit, so forgive me if if I've got have superseded on something else you might have said. But an analogy I really liked for Chile was that if you put it into Europe, it would be at the top of Greenland, and then it would finish at the bottom of Greece. And then you think about that, and you're like,
Europe is just one Chile long. That's what we've learned.
There you go. So you just have.
If you people either learn anything tonight, it's it's a new unit of measurement.
There we go.
Yeah,
it's a Chile
astronomical
measurement.
units and Chilean units. No, I think but I think it's a really nice way of kind of trying to put into, because we all know what the weather's like in Greece and we all know what the weather's like up at sort of in the Arctic Circle. So it is, and the other aspect, of course, is the varying heights that you get in along that western coast as the Pacific plate comes in and goes underneath the American plate and creates these crazy sort of mountainous features. So yeah.
Yeah, it does.
But yeah,
also,
I think,
Jamie, you would know because you've been there. So it is quite extreme, that, isn't it? Here,
it absolutely is, and and when I think some people probably have seen my drone shots that I put online because it was fun. It's just 360-degree beauty. And you've got, as you're going, where I was, you've got the Pacific range, then you've got the Andes, and you go, these are quite big hills and then you look the other way and there's the Andes, and you're like, But it's just all these little hills and all these little pockets and all these little microclimates, I think are massively important. I think, you know, sometimes we talk about wines in Europe and we go, well, this line and this line and this line and this line of vines are all very different. And then we talk about New World region, we go Chile or Argentina or Australia or South Africa as one big blanketed statement. And we've got to realize that, you know, if you go down Chile, you've got, you know, the driest desert in the world. And at the other end, you know, we're getting down to, you know, being able to see glaciers and polar ice caps from, you know, on a clear day. And then everything in between, you can be coastal and have the breeze coming through. You can be, you know, in the foothills of the Andes and be really, really warm. You can be halfway up the hill. And I think this just gives the opportunity to grow lots of different things, lots of different styles. It's not just Chilean wine is Chile. Within each place, there's a sense of regionality. And I, you know, as we go through, that is the worst. That is a horrible joke.
Don't make it out like you don't wish you had thought of that.
Okay.
Oh my goodness me! No one warned me about this.
Well, I think you know, we're talking about measurements of chilies and bad jokes. So I'm guessing people are probably moving on to wine too because they'll be very thirsty listening to this.
Can I just quickly ask, like, in terms of like Sauvignon, you know, it's a grape which has benefited from a lot of kind of different approaches to how you make it. Like in New Zealand, they insist on machine harvesting everything, bash the skins around. They use certain kinds of yeast and everything. And like this, I don't even know where you would start. Like if you're trying to make wine like this, I'm guessing you want to. This is all done in stainless, is it?
So they said actually no. It is the fermentation is done in stainless, and then we have aged it, I believe, in large foederers after.
Wow.
And it has, I think it's actually about 18 now. I've got, you know, lots of different numbers, but it is a substantial amount of time that it spends in that. And actually it's the on the lees. So we also have that kind of texture that comes through in the wine.
Feeling, yeah.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. And it's a theme that sort of runs through quite a lot of our wines of Ventisquero, which is about this sort of it's a few different things, but one of them, you know, when we're trying to place these wines. So with wines like this, especially with Sauvignon, although we know that Sauvignon grows in loads of different places, the places we probably want to attribute is that we go straight to New Zealand, or we want to go to kind of the Loire. And, or you know, like there's obviously loads of places. But one thing I really like about this wine is that it's not trying to be any of those things. This wine is just trying to be a really great example of somewhere that's so extreme. And you sort of said it earlier, Alex, like these places, and why bother? Like why would we bother? It's absolutely mental doing in this thing. And so often I'm like, well, you know, what is the point? But then I'm like, but actually it's about how is the point? Like, what are the parameters of grape growing? What are the parameters where we can make really fantastic wines? And what do we then do with those grapes once we have harvested them? Do you know what I mean? We could have just made a sort of more standard kind of expression of Sauvignon, maybe something that people would recognize slightly more. But what I love about the wine is it really does stand alone and kind of becomes which they wanted it to be, you know, which we wanted it to be. It is quite sort of iconic. I think it's a very gastro style of Sauvignon Blanc. I think it really lends itself to food. And as soon as people, it sort of pushes people that might not like Sauvignon into trying it. But also I think it's comfortable enough that people that do like Sauvignon, I think they would still enjoy a wine like this.
I think so. I think what you said a couple of things that are really interesting there. I mean, like most everything you're saying is interesting, but some of the things that just really stood out to me. Like when we think about Sauvignon Blanc, it is a very easily oxidized wine. The thiols that give it these characteristic flavors, the grassiness, the you know, all of those tropical fruits and things you get are incredibly sensitive to oxygen. It's very easy to destroy. So when you put it in an oak barrel of any kind, there is always a little bit of oxygen that gets in. Now, the bigger the barrel, the less oxygen there is per bottle of wine, let's just say. But then to counter that, because you're aging on the lees, all of the fine lees, the yeast cells that have done their job, they act as an antioxidant. They preserve it without the need for too much chemicals adding in as well. So that's a really nice thing. And I think the other thing that, I mean, let's pour wine number 2. The other thing is, I think something that I find really fascinating about, I often think about the topic of creating something new. And we tend to think, how do you make something new? Surely I want the infinite to be possible. I want to be able to control everything. I want no limits on what I do. Creativity, we think, comes from no limits. I don't think that. I think having a strong limit on something drives your creativity far, far harder. So if you are in a situation where you're dealing with something that's so far out of the norm, like a Sauvignon Blanc that's grown in a salty desert, that is going to force you to come up with all sorts of crazy new stuff and to create something really new. So I think a strong set of constraints can really drive you to do something really cool. And this is really cool.
Well, yeah, I think, just as a final thing, you have a look at the tasting notes. There's much complexity in here. You've got an extra menu on there.
Oh, I don't know why.
Everything from, saline, which you'd expect, grapefruit, citrus, passion fruit. Someone's put a badger in there. It's a bit early to have a badger in the tasting notes.
Is it ever too early for a badger?
But
good point.
But so as we go into wine 2, which is the Grey Single Block Chardonnay, can you just give us a little bit of a brief history of Ventisquero? It was a Duval kind of project with Tosso, wasn't it? It's kind of how did that come around? How do we end up with an Australian legend deciding that Chile was a place to be growing and making world-class wine?
So Felipe had been at the winery for a while. I think I'm not quite sure, because I can't remember right now when John Duval got involved, but Felipe had been making wines for quite a while for Ventisquero. Felipe Tosso is a winemaker, absolutely fabulous winemaker, and he has been with Ventisquero from its kind of conception. So I guess as a winemaker, what a fantastic thing to be able to do, because you are part of that story all the way through. And Felipe sort of had a bit of an epiphany. We had, I'm sure we would have had some Syrah vines for him to have had this thought. And he was like, if we are going to take the winery to the next level and we've got this amazing Syrah, who are we going to ask? Do you know what I mean? If we could really, if you're going to think about these wines, and again, it's really part of something I kind of really love about Ventisquero, because the concept of that was, well, what do we do? How do we get to be the best? If that's what we're attributing to try and be, well, then you have to ask the best. You have to get the best involved. And so Felipe phoned John. I think the story goes, I think it's on our website. I think that's where I've got this one. But Felipe phoned John about 4:00 in the morning, Australia time, and said, want to introduce myself. I'm a winemaker in Chile, and I really think you need to be involved in our winery. And I think John was like, well, I admire your goal for phoning me up at 4:00 in the morning. So we actually got some brownie points, I think, for that, strangely. But I think John was really enamored with Felipe's vision and his passion for what he wanted to create. And so John became a consultant winemaker for us. So from the Grey series up into our icons, of which we're going to taste 2 today, John became really pivotal in that kind of movement into the next stage of our evolution as a winery. So definitely Felipe's passion and his kind of bedrock. And I would say that John Duval has just add that kind of that real layer of kind of expertise. And I was thinking about it today, when you're going to talk about the wines and you're going to talk about stories. And there was something I really love about wines, and not just specific to Ventisquero, although it's relative, is that wines become part of, when you work in wines, become part of your story. We become the ambassador, that's my role, but our custodians of stories about wines, don't we, or of different things. And they come into our lives in different sort of chapters. And John Duval was part of mine. I worked at 15 when I first started wine, and I didn't even know he was anything to do with Penfolds. I just worked with Duval. I had the Plexus. And at that time, we were able to use it on the wine flights and stuff like that. So for me, when I learned about Ventisquero, the devout link, even though I don't know John, was like, oh my God, but I love his wines. You know, he was so integral to my story ages ago. I love the kind of sort of, you know, how those things kind of come back round to you.
I like that when you see that, when, you know, there's a wine that you've had and you know, and then you taste a wine from someone else and then you hear, oh, so-and-so came and consulted or helped out. I'm like, yeah, but that guy makes brilliant wine here and he does that here and that's fun and that's cool.
It just makes winemaking sound like the best job in the world, doesn't it? Like, oh, I'm going to fly off to Chile today. I'm going to go to Australia. I'm going to go and do my little bit of traveling winemaker around the world, see the world, taste cool things, work with cool people. I mean, it doesn't sound awful. It doesn't pay very well, but it's still great fun.
So anyway, should we talk a bit? Well, we've got all the tasting notes up there already, but let's talk a little bit about this Chardonnay, because this comes from a single block, correct?
Yeah. So the other thing to know about all the grey series is the expression of the vines or the wines is that they become from single blocks. So over the years, we have seen that certain blocks of our vineyards tend to, produce the best fruit. And of course, as we all know, you can only produce great wines when you've got the best fruit. So the concept of these is that all of our grey series are single block. So we've looked at the vineyards and said that is the block, that's the one that always tends to produce the best fruit. And it always blows my mind. And again, Jamie, you probably know more on this in terms of the environment, because we talk a lot about the consistency of Chile and its kind of climate. And so it would make sense that we would be able to look at these plots of vineyards and be able to say, yeah, they're really good. How consistent is that climate?
So I think it's the same anywhere in the world, but you know, the consistency is differing on a year-to-year basis. But what I think that Chile has, and once again, you can't make a blanket statement, but where you've got a lot of high altitude, you've got these opportunities for this longer diurnal shift, so you can extend the growing season if you want to. You can pick earlier if you want to. You're generally warm enough to get ripeness, but then you can, you know, if you need a bit more ripeness, or you can pick earlier and have that acidity. So I think it's maybe, and there's nothing easy about winemaking, so I'm not going to say it's easy, but I think it's maybe easier to have a more consistent style year on year than it would be somewhere, you know, you've got the wind coming through. You don't get massive amounts of disease pressure, you know, in the warmer places with the wind coming through. So I think that does allow you to have more opportunity to pick and make the wine that you would like to make, rather than have to take the grapes when you can get them to preserve.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that would be that's a massive generalization, but that's my thought.
I think, and I there was something that I didn't know until I studied at Plumpton, and that is that, you know, when you're growing grapes. And obviously, the making wine, then there's the growing grapes, which are two incredibly different kind of skill sets. And often the winemaker is set completely at opposing elements with the grape grower, because the grape grower has to achieve certain things to please the winemaker, but also he's got to get paid, and you know it's very difficult. But the thing that I didn't really know is that to preserve the grapes especially from the bad weather you get towards the end of a growing season, let's take England for an example. It gets wet in the autumn, very often, and most years, and you then get pressure from, you said it, what they call it, disease pressure from mildew, downy mildew in particular, where you've got these days where it rains and then stuff starts coming up off the ground. But you have to leave a period of time between when you spray the grapes to protect them from any of these horrible diseases that might attack them. You have to leave that period of time before you can then pick them. And that, in the minds of a grape grower, is just the most dangerous time of it all, because you sat there going, I can't do anything now, and or if I do something now, I'm going to have to wait another however long it is to pick, and then the winemaker is going to get pissed off with me because the acidity's dropped or whatever it is. So you roll the dice when you do that very last spray for disease protection. So if you have less disease pressure because you're in Chile rather than in Kent, for example, it lets you be, like you say, more flexible about that and be more in control of it, because you can't control those sort of things, and it is that gap which makes it so hard. I'm talking about Kent in a Chilean tasting market.
But I can see what you mean.
This is a hard place. This is a more consistent. I've got a question. Like when we talk about consistency, I think that's made people think that Chile is an easy place to grow wine, which is then backed up by the fact that when you go into your supermarket, you find these £6 bottles of Chilean Cabernet Sauvignon, which are good. They are good quality wines. They aren't excellent quality wines, but they are, for the price, phenomenal. Yeah. So how do you then try to persuade the consumer that it's worth pushing out for something like this, and that they could expect a wine which is, up there with the best of the Chardonnays from Chile?
Because I told them to.
There you go. The answer. I think what's interesting about this is that now, we're going into wines now, the grey series, if we're looking at retail, and I'm not sure, whether we talk about price here, but these wines are potentially about, I don't know, 18 to 21-ish pounds, okay, retail. So you're looking at that. This is still something that is a treat wine, yeah, okay, for most consumers, okay. It's definitely a big jump if we're going into the supermarkets and looking £6. And the Chardonnay is an interesting one, because even though this is an absolutely fantastic Chardonnay, like I love it, it ain't going to be changing people's minds if they don't like Chardonnay. Yeah. So it's not going to be someone, this isn't going to be like flip somebody that it doesn't like Chardonnay, because this is a really good example of Chardonnay and has the things that they probably aren't going to like. But if you put this wine against wines that are at the same bracket, yeah. So if we were looking at other wines that were £20, I think that is where we see the value. I mean, because they are such exceptional value against that. Do you know what I mean? This is £20. Is it worth £20? Yeah, it's worth more in terms of what the wine delivers.
If you compare this to a Californian Chardonnay of the same quality, you could double the price, couldn't you?
And again, it's not trying, we want to put Chardonnay into, or my experience of these wines has been, especially with Chardonnay and things like Pinot, we want to put it straight into Burgundy. Well, how Burgundian is it? Is it Burgundian? How much Burgundian style is it? Is it going to give us that? Is it going to give us the Burgundy we're missing out on? Well, also no, because this isn't trying to be Burgundian Chardonnay. This has got a fantastic layer. I'm really loving the tasting notes up there. It's got this fantastic layer of really defined tropical fruit. It's not fruit bomb, it's not fruit salad, but it's got this really lovely definable fruit in it. And how nice is it to have a Chardonnay which gives us that little bit sort of extra when it comes to that? We don't have to flip and search too hard for it. It's not bolted on to under loads of layer oak. It's a real it's a really lovely, easy expression of Chardonnay with fantastic freshness.
And I think this shows, that people go, I don't like oak. Not all oak is bad. This is definitely, the oak is definitely there, but it's not. Yeah. It's well integrated. It's balanced. It's part of it. It's not hiding anything else away.
Everything is turned up to, let's say 8, not to 11, but to 7 or 8. That kind of. It's going for it, but it's not overdoing it.
But I think before we dive into the reds, I think it is that point that. Sometimes when you have wines from other places, you turn around and go, if it's got that big name behind it, whether it's Chablis, whether it's Polini Montrachet, whether it's Barolo for a red, whether it's Rioja, and it's got that kind of name behind it, that sometimes seems to lead to a gravitas in price. That you can go, this is a Chardonnay from South Africa, Chile, Argentina, whatever, and it can be 50 quid, say. And you go, pound for pound, it's as good, if not better, than one of the named regions. But people go, well, I wouldn't spend £50 on a Chardonnay from Chile or a Cabernet from Chile.
What I say to those guys?
You would.
Keep doing that, because then I can keep buying these ones for less money. So.
And I do think that's what's happened with these wines, though, is because everything is starting to go up. These wines have kind of is now reached a really nice kind of sweet point for them, because they actually represent more and more better value. Like even last year, like £15 would have been a kind of, and again, I'm saying this generalized. I don't want people to feel that that's what I'm saying and this is what they should adhere to. You know, like 15 would be kind of like a quite sweet point. You know, whatever kind of wines you're getting for that, you could probably get fairly decent ones, you know, definitely in the supermarket, even at wine merchants. Now £20, you know, that's like only, you know, 12 months different. So in a way, for these wines, that's sort of done a favor, because it's, although it's competitive at that, these wines still now look and, you know, taste so much within context of that kind of price increase. I think it's sort of stabilized at that.
So we got this great question here, which is that you know, it is a bold style wine. Is that an Australian influence trait? I'll leave that one to you. I
mean, I think I really love the question, and I love how we could frame that, and potentially, if I'd been with them for ages, I would be able to answer that maybe slightly more authentically, because I would be able to tell you what our evolution of the wines were. I really believe with our winery that, like I said, that John Duval is kind of the icing on the cake in terms of the wines that we've produced. Felipe is a fantastic winemaker. And so I would like to believe, and like I said, this would be, I would have to check this out, but what I would believe is that actually these are Felipe's expressions of the wines that we have. John, like I said,
it's quite a new world trait as well, isn't it? It's a new world trait to listen to what the aspects of wines that consumers like and go, well, shall we do some more of that bit then, rather than the smell of moldy leaves, which is our terroir. Like, you know, if people like the taste of papaya and vanilla, shall we give them that? It's the new world kind of attitude more than just the Australians. The Australians did then turn it up a little notch more, but I love this one. That is absolutely sensational. And
it hasn't got that. I mean, I do quite like that sort of new, you know, that sort of popcorny things that sometimes kind of, you know, you get with those new world, and it doesn't have so much of that. And I agree with Jamie, and again in terms of that sort of elegance of how the oak plays that part in the wine, but it isn't. It definitely doesn't envelope it. It doesn't like weigh it down.
It's not like the bread and butter kind of turn the diacetyl up to.
No,
you know,
every part of the wine is important, and every part of the wine brings something to it.
Yeah.
All right, should we move on to the reds?
We should move on to the reds, and while we're moving on to the reds, we have a recommendation for what you should be eating, and apparently Jamie should be paying, which means you don't know how much we pay him because they ain't very much. Luxury risotto with seafood, lobster, prawns, and scallops, etc.
Nice.
In there, maybe some caviar on top of it, Finn. Excellent. I like that idea. But people loving wine number 2 as well.
I really love those tasting notes. Am I going to nick them off you, by the way, whoever's written those down? So I really think that's fine. I love the pina colada, love the tin sweet corn, actually. I was like, oh my God. And I was reading them just before. I kind of went back and I can envisage that's exactly what the wine was. So thank you so much for those.
Fantastic. We had one question that was asking about, is it, I can't remember where this was said. It might have been a typo, but 100% estate.
It's estate. I just left an E off. It's all right.
They're just in one state of America.
Exactly. Something but anyway, so
Utah or something.
Right, moving into the reds. Right, because we are
behind as usual.
Oh, sorry.
More than usual.
More than usual because it's
fun. We're having fun. We're having fun as well.
So we are on that classic
Chilean blend,
GCM blend.
GCM.
You know, which, you know, it feels a bit of a, you know, it's a Rhone-ish kind of blend with Carignana in there. But we're in the Atacama Valley.
Where's that?
Chile.
Boom.
Shall I pull the map up?
You can pull the map up.
I can't read it. Oh, hang on. No, that's not zoomed in for anyone else.
No, that's just for you.
But that's at least a starting point.
So you're around here.
So, like, just sort of, we're not in the Bio Valley. Thank you to Wine Folly for their maps, which are always wonderful. But sorry, did you say the Rappel Valley?
No,
Apalta. Okay.
Look, I found it earlier.
The great thing is it's not even on this map, so we're in somewhere super cool, quite clearly. But Jamie was pointing somewhere near the Maipo Valley. So hopefully that's right. But if not, we'll work it out.
So Apalta is within Colchagua.
It's in Colchagua. Okay. Well, let's pull that back up.
So Colchagua is just south of Santiago.
Yeah, cool. Okay, Colchagua. Yeah, so you are absolutely right. Just around the Maipo Valley.
He sounds surprised that I was absolutely right. Did you see that? He was absolutely right. Yes.
I've known you for no. Let's not go into that one.
So I love this style of wine because sometimes you think South America, and this is a South American territory of the Rush. The reds are going to be big, heavy, alcoholic, overly ripe. This is for Grenache, for Mataro, which is the same as Mourvedre or Monastrell. It's a really elegant style of wine. Loads of fruit. It's quite powerful, but it's really, really fresh.
I love this wine. And do you know what? And actually sometimes, and again, another thing that I do is if I'm introducing these wines, I'm like, oh, and luckily people have already tasted it, but I'm like, oh my goodness me, I absolutely love this wine. And I big it up like the movie, you know, and people go and take a sip and they're like, oh, yeah, it wasn't that good actually. So you ruined it for me, you know. And I'm a bit like that with this wine because I get so enthusiastic about it that people go, yeah, I'm not sure what you mean. But what I do love about it is that you're exactly right. It's quite light, quite fresh, but then it has this real kind of like subtle richness to it. So it finishes with that really lovely kind of sort of caramelly Grenache at the end, but it's not heavy and it's not sweet. And you can have this chilled. I think this is a perfect summer red, this.
Is there any residual sugar on this at all, or is it just that kind of that caramelly sort of like flavor of sweetness?
I mean, yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's just that caramel flavor of Grenache. And the other thing with this one, it's been aged again in the foudres. So this is 100% has been aged in these, and it's we only use French oak, and they're the really large one. I think they're 2,500 litres. They're massive. But this is aged for about I think nearly 12 months or over. So 100% of this wine has been, and I think it's that, which again, it's just that like attention to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how are we going to make that wine fantastic? Or put it in that.
I think you've also got to think that, you know, because it is a lighter flavored style, you're still at 14% alcohol, and alcohol carries that residual feeling of sweetness. So you're going to have that. That's going to give that little bit richer, but it doesn't feel hot. It's not burning. It's in balance. It's really well put together. That, you know, if this was, I don't know, you know, a light, you know, a heavier style of Pinot Noir, and at 14%, it would be so off kilter. But this, it works really well. You know, the Grenache gives it that lightness, that elegance. The Mataro gives it that little bit of oomph, and you know, you got the Carignano, which gives it that spice, that structure, that body.
Really good. And it was interesting. I heard Felipe talking about this wine because I'd always described this wine, you know, as like you said, like sort of Southern French, you know, like, you know, Southern Rhone. And he was like, oh, we use Spanish varieties. And I thought, oh, that's so interesting. You know, that like here, like, you know, as being English, we're like, well, oh, of course, it's got to be like Southern Rhone blend. In Felipe's head, that's not what this wine is. Yeah. And I don't know whether it was just a translation, but, you know, I thought, oh, that's really funny that, like, you know, the flip on that.
It is, and this is, I think this is very interesting. It definitely is quite Pinot-like. It's certainly more, let's say, Californian Pinot-like. I would go with that. It's not like a sort of a French Pinot, but it has it's got a light color to it. You really can see there's not huge amounts of intensity compared to some. It's quite like a Californian Pinot I was having a couple of nights ago. But it's juicier. It is juicier, and it's got the potential. The tension. Kathy's got a great question here. So this we're talking about single block now. Are we? That's an excellent question. Given that it's a blend, is this a field blend, or are they in? Do you have a row of that and a row of that and a row of that, or are they just willy-nilly kind of out there? Like
no, so that's a really fantastic question in consideration for this wine. So the grapes, I believe, do grow in the same vineyard, but actually we do have to pick these grapes for their optimal ripeness at different times. So in that sense, the wine is not quite field blend, because whenever I think about field blend, I do, of course, think that the grapes are picked together and then they're kind of vinified together. Now we don't pick them very far apart. I think it's only about sort of a 3-week window, but again, not exactly sure on that, so don't hold me to that. But we have to pick the grapes at optimal ripeness. So we vinify the grapes separately and then blend them.
Okay.
And I guess probably that's where the fooders come into action, because I would imagine that we've probably blended the wine before it goes in. And that must help with that homogeny of the wines. Do you know what I mean? Why the wine feels quite put together. But I love the comparison of this to something like a Pinot. And maybe something for me which takes it slightly away from that is maybe it's doesn't quite have the same acidity, which is maybe why that mouthfeel feels so lovely and juicy, because it hasn't got that. But I do think the wine is really lovely and balanced. And what I love about this one is, and again, lots of people that hear me do tastings, Wednesday or weekend, this one. You could have this on a Wednesday and I wish it is today. So there you go.
It is. I'm going to try to out Finn. I'm going to say that for me, this would go beautifully with a sort of a medallion of pork wrapped in some, some Parma ham and with a cream sauce. I think, and some mushrooms. I think that would go beautifully with that sort of nice cherry character to it.
I think this is quite good for barbecue.
Good for barbecue as well. Yeah.
Good barbecue wine, and it's a good one because those tannins are quite nice and soft. I think this is also quite a good one for people who might like, who aren't really into the heavier reds. Yeah. So, like I said, summer red could be a bit chilled. Great for barbecue.
This is the kind of wine. If I was taking to a tasting where I didn't know the clients, I didn't know what was going on. They're just like, we want something. This is the red wine for people to go, I don't really like red wine, but I quite like this one. And this is what this is.
Yeah,
this is what this is.
Completely agree.
It's a brilliant red wine that, and when I say safe, I mean that as a really positive thing.
I hear that.
If you're going to someone's house that you don't know and you're going to bring a bottle of wine, this is a good move. Yeah. This is a good move. It's
a nice crowd pleaser, isn't it? It's not like I said. I think it's a great wine for people that don't really like those heavier reds.
I agree. I tried to out Finn. I failed. So a rabbit paella with saffron. Yeah, okay. That doesn't sound awful with this at all. And again, I think for me, it's all about just that freshness cutting through things.
So I think this point here, I think I think once again it depends where you are. You look at Spanish Monastrell, and if you were on the club last month, we had a fair chunk of Spanish Monastrell.
We did Jumia,
but I think it comes. Monastrell comes in all styles, from light and elegant to big and rich, and I do think that's the joy of wine, that we can turn around and say, you can't say Monastrell is Monastrell. You can't say Sauvignon Blanc is Sauvignon Blanc. It's, depends on A, where it is, B, the climate, C, what the winemaker wants. And the point of saying it's not too characterful, I disagree with that point. What I'm trying to say it's not pushing the boundaries one way or the other. It's not overly acidic. It's not overly tannic. It's not overly fruit forward. It's not underly ripe. So I think there's a lot of character in there, but it doesn't have a particular characteristic that pushes it to become an outlier.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but I
think sometimes we and sorry, Alex, I'm interjecting there. But, I just think sometimes when we talk about wines, we can be in danger of thinking that we have to. The best wines have to be the most complex. They have to be the heaviest, the richest, the most. In order for them to then become the best. Now, some of the best experience we have with wines are probably the ones where we've thought least about the wines and we're just having the best time. There is a place for us not to have wines which are now this wine has been made also in talking about that in such a way that it's so mega intense in the winery to enable us to enjoy this wine like this. Having something that is easy for us to enjoy isn't taking anything away from us saying that this wine isn't complex and doesn't deserve us to have all that language around it, because there is a real joy in having wines that we don't have to have all of that for sometimes.
Completely agree. And I was just judging at the International Wine Challenge this week, and we're always reminded at the beginning to not ignore the quiet wines, the elegant wines. It's easy to score the big, shouty, powerful boom that go this and this and that. You've got to have that little bit of time for this. Just nice, calm, quiet, collected, does what it does, just quite beautifully wine, without having to go, it's got loads of this or loads of it. It's just lovely and fresh and nice.
Yeah.
And you know, it doesn't need 93 pages of tasting notes. It's just delicious, and I want to drink it and share it with friends and have more of it. And sometimes those that agreement, you know, the best wines are the ones you've shared with the right people, and that's sometimes, you know, I think we sometimes in the wine world get, I say spoiled, because we get to say some of the best wines in the world, but a lot of the time it's, you know, it's under lights in an exam condition or with a winemaker staring down you going, I need that, you know. And I think sometimes,
will you buy this?
If you turn around and go, the best wine and the best meal and this you had is about the experience as a whole. And there's some great wines out there that I said, I had this brilliant wine. I don't remember the tasting notes. I just know I had a great time with it with my friends and some great food, and that was it. And that's what's important.
Yeah,
I
agree.
think Helen's point there, wines you can share with a
group of friends. Exactly, and especially like you said as well, Elliot, as a barbecue, I want that a little bit chilled on a warm summer's day with a variety of meat from the barbecue and some cool grilled vegetables and cheeses to please the vegans and everyone among you. But sorry, cheeses probably won't, will it? No,
cheese is not
this wrong. Vegan cheese alternative.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. But I when I said it was a bit like a Volvo of wines, I didn't mean that in any disparaging sense. I love sometimes it's nice to get into a car where everything works and everything is comfortable and where you need it to be, and everything works beautifully well. And you can you don't notice. It's very easy to notice like a Lamborghini, which will, you know, blow your socks off, but also will try to kill you. And this will not try to kill you. This wine, it is the well thought out, brilliant, carefully created. What am I on about?
When you need a new marketing slogan for Ventisquero, why
there you go.
Kill you? Well done, Alex Taylor.
It's Volvo.
I'm only a marketing genius.
Anyway, on that bombshell. Cabernet Sauvignon.
Cabernet Sauvignon. This. I hope this will blow me away.
So is Cabernet your thing, Alex?
An interesting comment. My niece describes wines as characters. Oh, I love that. That is great. They do have a character to them, don't they? And I think that's the difference to me. Like a wine without character is the characterless.
A wine without character is characterless.
It's watery, and this isn't this. You know, when you go in something you're absolutely unaware of any faults. Whereas, of course, if you have something that has no character, you're aware there's a big fault. There is no character. And that could be said for some people as well. And sometimes you just wish wines had a little bit less character, and people. But okay, I've moved on the taste notes to the Cabernet Sauvignon.
So Cabernet Sauvignon, and we are now in the Maipo Valley, which is it's literally the suburbs of Santiago. Yeah. So it's if you're going to Chile and want to do a wine trip and fly into Santiago, that's probably the quickest place to get to from the airport. So this is, once again, I say single block, 2020 vintage, so a little bit of age in it. And this is from the Trinidad vineyard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing it's not in Trinidad.
It's the name of our vineyard that it's from. So it's in the coastal part of the Maipo Valley.
Okay. So here, you've got, the breeze coming in, and you've got, you're pushing onto that side. So you're starting to push up into the Andes. And there you get, I'm doing this, like my hand up here, like that's what a mountain is in case they're here. Really helpful. But you really start to, you see a good diurnal shift. You see that, you can be 20 degrees different between night and day quite easily. So therefore you can get your fruit, you can keep your acidity, but you don't have to get massively sugar ripe because of the cool night. So you can have this lovely fruit flavor, but you've not got to be 15 and a half, 16 degrees of alcohol to make your wine. So you get power and structure and flavor, but you're not, valley floor heats where you're suddenly at stupidly high alcohol to be able to create a wine with any fruit or flavor. So, yeah.
Again, I think it's such a lovely expression of Cabernet. And I think what surprises me about this one is that you would anticipate it, if we were tasting it, not thinking about Chile, thinking about Cabernet and its potential there. Again, there's an elegance in this wine where that extraction is so carefully kind of considered that it isn't that all-encompassing. Again, it's got this real lovely, the sort of, it's rich, but it's not heavy. And I think this is a real thing that, again, sort of echoes through a lot of our reds, actually. And it's kind of a lot to do. We do lots of kind of short maceration and then looking at like the temperature control, lots of different things, but it's like pumping over really regularly, but just really monitored. And it's almost like those things are sort of the luxury in these wines when it comes to the winemaking. It's not just the things that they're doing, it's the things that they're taking the time to do. So that, that time luxury, do you know what I mean? It's like, well, actually, what's the best thing for us to do with these grapes? Well, actually, it's those things, and that's going to take us a little bit longer. But actually, instead of it being then over extracted, it's looking at making sure that they're just extracting enough. And then that means that we can then be really careful with the oak that we're using, because we're not using oak as a compensation. We're not using oak as a compensation of the grapes not being ripe enough. We're not using the oak as a compensation because the fruit was too heavy because we picked too late, and we're trying to, we're balancing it out. It's like we're looking at that fruit, looking at that optimal fruit, and then we can just add those things as necessary around that, I believe.
Isn't it nuts that this is lower alcohol than the previous wine?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Mental.
Yeah. I think the lower alcohol with this is the key to balancing that extraction as well, because with the higher alcohol you do naturally just draw more stuff out of the grape skins and everything. It's a solvent. So but you've got to be really, really careful. I think it also, what I'm loving about this is the quality of the sort of the green characteristic, that freshness you get. It's there, but only in the exact kind of quantity and style that you'd want it to be there. It's almost sort of it's herbaceous, but it's not like blow your head off kind of thing. So yeah. So it's lovely.
So question, and I'm sure it varies drastically across the wines and the different things. What kind of volume production is there on the grey level? Kind of how many bottles? Because there's the classic level, isn't there, which is a bit more, which is bigger production.
Yeah. So Ventisquero do produce quite a lot of different wines, and so we have different wines under different kind of things. So. The Reserva series up, they're all our own vineyards. And so, with the Classico, that's on a much, much larger scale than these would be. And I asked Felipe the other day, so let me check that, because I think with the Grey series, we produced, I literally looked at this the other day, I've got no retention for numbers. And I know, and actually now I'm going to call myself out, because I said something the other day, and as I said it, I thought, that doesn't bloody sound right. I mean, surely we produce more than that. And they were like, yeah, we've never had an issue with that. And as I was saying it, I was like, I'm going to have to fact check now. I'm going to keep fact checking, because I'm sure that's not right.
Always better to fact check it. But I mean, so Cabernet from Chile, again, normally, like so many of them don't have anywhere near this level of character, and this really does. It's got character in abundance, but softness is a part of that character again. And like,
but it's also 2020. It's also 2020.
It's 2020. Yeah,
it's 2020, and it's still got fruit. The tannin's starting to come through. It's well integrated. It's balanced. And the tannin's always like powdery. It's like soft powdery tannins. Just
And it's not like it's also starting to develop much tertiary, which are the aged characteristics yet. It's still a young, fresh, vibrant wine, and I find that really fascinating because, again, you've got to be knowing what you're doing to do this. So this means that this will keep going for years. It's got the acidity, it's got the fruit, it's got the tannin. It will keep going.
Oh yeah, another 8-10 years, easy.
Yeah. So it says about 60. So depending on the grey series. So for things like the GCM and the Sauvignon Blanc, which we tasted earlier, that's about 12,000 max.
Okay.
Whereas these ones can be quite a bit more than that. So about 60,000 potentially for things. So it's a lot of wines within.
By Chilean wine standards, this is craft wine. This is, this is the side project that you do because you want to and you can, and it shows off what you can do. Amazing.
And it's complex, isn't it? These wines, like I said, it's, if you're going to do Cabernet, and actually I think of all the wines, I think Cabernet is probably one of the most challenging within the range that we have. Just because of what we anticipate of Cabernet, what Cabernet's potential is, in the different kind of things. And like I said, I really love this kind of slightly more elegant style. And it was interesting you picked up on the kind of like green character, because for me, that pyrozite, that green stuff is something that I find, I don't necessarily really like that in the wines, but I do find that, and when you said it, I can feel it in that. But I still really love, the structure of this. And again, you could go for something so much more heavy hitting, if you think that you're trying to achieve with Cabernet. And I really like this kind of pullback on that.
I think this one for me is giving ever so slightly kind of Coonawarra vibes to it. I don't know if I'm feeling wrong to say that, and I don't like to put things in.
Here we go.
But just a little bit of
Australian region.
Yeah.
Look,
you were talking to the person who interviewed Tim Duval, John's son, and
did you?
I did, and I asked him about quokkas and drop bears in his vineyard. Having asked a lot of sensible questions beforehand, but I could just tell how disappointed he was in me. It's like, I saw great things for you, and then suddenly you're talking about quokkas. Like, what is wrong with you? But I was like, I have let myself down here badly. But, for those who don't know the John Duval, he used to work as Ellie mentioned at Penfolds, where they created, probably the I don't know how to go. The icon of
probably Australia's most iconic wine,
Grange, which from Penfolds, which they used to describe as a hermitage, didn't they? But the best bottle of wine I have ever had in my life was a Grange, and I have a feeling it was made by John. And we had it on the opening of our very first business together, and it was just a magic wine, and I managed to get it in a 25% off sale on Waitrose cellar, which they have now shut down.
So we're doing a Ventisquero tasting. He's talked about Kent, he's talked about Coonawarra, he's talked about
Grange, and Waitrose.
It all makes sense.
This is where everyone's going to go buy the wine after this now.
They can't if they want to. Anyway, so he's trying to move on to the next one because he's seen the time, and it is 6 minutes. We're all right. We're okay.
You're just talking nonsense.
I am.
We're effectively 4 wines in now. That's okay.
That's a good point. Yes,
exactly.
Well, that was sensational. I love this one. Right, tell us about the next one, Jamie.
It's red.
Okay. What he means is tell us about the next one.
Moving on. So we are. So the last 4 wines have been the grey single block series. So we're probably going back stylistically, maybe a little bit. Like, well, you be the judge of this actually, because it's Pinot. It's a bit rich. You might think we're going back style-wise because we're going back to Pinot Noir, but this is taking a step up in the range, isn't it? As we go to the Heru Pinot Noir, and this comes from a tiny little block, like one hectare. Is where this Pinot Noir comes from.
Cool.
So I will hand back to you, Ellie, to tell us all about this.
Hang on, we go Cabernet to Pinot Noir.
Yes,
Yeah.
boss.
Okay.
And and like Jamie said, it's interesting because, you know, normally this would be a flip. You'd be like, okay, well, really, we should have had this earlier on. And actually, maybe that in one way is accurate. But in terms of like the evolution of the wines and coming into what we call the icon series. So we have 5 different wines which are within our icons, and the Huru is our Pinot Noir. And like Jamie said, it's 1 hectare. So a really, really small plot of vines in Casablanca Valley. So, and actually, I think they're fairly high. And it's interesting because we could talk about altitude a bit. It's not so, it's important, the altitude in Chile, by all means, but it's not as essential as it would be in Argentina, because you have to be grown at altitude in Argentina, otherwise you wouldn't be able to grow them. So it's interesting, this kind of concept. And the sort of slope concept is something that Chile are really kind of starting to explore in kind of like in a slightly different way. But anyway, 1 hectare of Pinot Noir. But it is a really, really sort of quite full Pinot Noir. And so I don't think it's I'm trying to think of the word. It's not like it's not going to do it too much of a disservice by having this after the Cabernet, should I say.
You're right.
And also, everyone who joins us are absolute professional tasters, so they can taste anything in any order.
This is true.
There we go. So that's
this is the thing. You know, nonsense, badges, IT issues, great wine, terrible jokes, and that's what is the online wine tasting. It's better. It could be worse. We're gonna have terrible wines and great jokes.
That would be the wrong balance.
It's because I'm not responsible for making the wines. See.
So Casablanca has an ocean influence, which does help it cool down. Again, in common with some of those great sites on the North American side of things.
I think what's interesting as well, and this is it, Chile in general, is you've got a lot of old vines out there. You've got a lot of original rootstock because there was never phylloxera. It's protected from one side by the ocean, the other side by the mountains. You've got a lot of sandy soil there, so you've got a lot of older vines. You've got a lot of great intensity, great fruit, great original rootstock there, which allows a lot of these wines to have this beautiful concentration that you're not going to find anywhere else in the world, because the rootstock and the vines just don't exist. They're being grubbed up, they're being grafted, they're being changed, they've had to do this. Chile lives all on its own rootstock, which is, I think, brilliant.
Yeah. It's incredible, really, isn't it? When you think about that, and think about what the landscape of that looks like in the bigger scheme of the world, and what people have to kind of suffer with, or what we have to do in terms of the rootstock. So it is really amazing to be able to have the opportunity to be able to grow vines like that. Really.
Do you know? Sorry, I looked like I was falling asleep there, and I wasn't, I promise. I mean, I would have just cause, but not because of the wines, just because of my sleeping patterns. But I was just recalling, you know how wine takes you back to a place and a time. This wine has reminded me in a way that very few other wines have had, of a specific tasting experience. Now, I don't have huge amounts of experience of tasting Chilean Pinot Noir. There's nothing wrong with it. I just haven't had that opportunity. And this took me back to a very specific vineyard in Santa Barbara County, in California, the southern part of California.
That's not in Chile.
It's not, but there's a point to this. Trust me. And I went to the Sanford Vineyard site, which is in the Santa Ynez Valley, right up towards the western end. Again, in the ocean influence, on these kind of similar sort of beautiful rolling hills, and I tasted through their various expressions of Pinot, which they are absolutely experts in. They were featured in the Sideways film all those years ago, and this wine was, I think, about $150 a bottle, and it just has smacked me in the face with that exact kind of, like, there's not been a wine that's reminded me of that exact wine right back then. I was like, wow, okay, and I closed my eyes and I could see pictures of it. I could feel myself with the breeze coming in and the sunshine, and the knowledge that Jamie was waiting for me to drive and go and get him. and had to spit the wine. It was really sad. Anyway, so yes,
here he goes again.
Here he goes again. But yes, it's a good wine, and it reminds me of another very good wine from the west coast of the Americas. So yeah, this is the bottle.
So this is the bottle, right? So you got a little hat there. See, there's a little hat.
Shall I switch the closer camera on? You can. I'll give that a go. Let's go. Right.
Where am I going? There.
Yeah. Oh no, hold on. I don't know where it's gone.
It's like lots of people say it looks like a Harry Potter hat. Like we're in.
So this is Heru, and Heru. No.
Heru.
Legend has it that Heru is the mythical elf of the vineyards who would stay in the vineyards in Casablanca, and he would be watching over the harvest of his most precious treasure, which was the vine. So Heru is the elf of the vineyard, correct?
That sounds absolutely perfect. Well done, Jamie. Oh, so it's like the Chilean leprechaun.
Oh.
But instead of gold, it's grapes.
It's got a very big hole on the pump on this one, so as well. Okay, I'm going to turn that camera off for the sake of everybody. Okay, right. That one.
Brilliant. We're back. So yeah, we've now got our dinner party fact that we can talk about elves and Harry Potter. It's the Harry Potter wine of the lineup.
Something gets mentioned a lot when I show the wines, but I do really love this expression of Pinot Noir. I think that it's got it's not. Well, I guess it is quite decadent in a way, but that fruit structure is so lovely.
Yeah,
I think it's a lovely drop of juice. It's well made Pinot Noir. Once again, it's 14%, so you're a new world kind of style. It's got that ripeness, it's got fruit, but it's got that nice acidity. It's got that nice length to it. It's is it the most complex Pinot Noir on the planet? No. But is it delicious and drinkable?
It's the bits of Pinot Noir that I really, really like, without any of the bits that I don't. And for me, again, that's a real art form. I think that, again, if you wanted to have a wine with a duck breast salad, that I come on yeah.
And I think so. This normally for the price of this one, and again, if you put this with other Pinots of this kind of ilk. Again, it completely over delivers because it's just got all of those aspects to it. I think it's got that sort of Oregon, Central Otago-y kind of feel.
Yeah, Markenborough, that kind of thing. Yeah, completely.
You know what I mean? They're so that opulence, but still that kind of like breath of freshness. You still kind of get that. You still feel these wines and that kind of like.
It is that almost old world meets new world kind of feeling. It's not as big and ripe as I think Otago or California can be. Much more Oregon, cool climate, new world kind of feel to it, which is lovely.
I think this is really a very interesting point because you can do this if when people are blind tasting wines in those black glasses where you're with a blindfold. It's amazing how easy you can be tricked into thinking a wine's a different color. Now, Jamie used to train people on blind tasting, and he would often do the exact opposite. So he would take a white wine and he would serve it at room temperature with red dye in it.
Oh, that's
people got to learn.
It's amazing how easy we can be tricked. Like one of the things I loved about the Sauvignon tasting notes on the very first wine, where there were so many notes of red fruit in there. So we can believe these things, and of course it's there. Helen loves this because it's another one for those of us who love a lighter red with lower levels of tannin. It's not too low. It's just nice. Kathy points out, yes, blind tasting is so difficult. It's that's the kind of wine I could drink all day, every day. Although I probably shouldn't. I've got to go and see. Oh, Kathy's just made a white Malbec. Now that must. I mean, okay. So that's a bold choice because some of the white Malbecs that I've had haven't been my favorite wines. There's one that was on sale in the supermarkets, wasn't there? But I've never tried what you might call a white Malbec from a good producer before. So
I've had a couple.
How is it, Kathy? What's it taste like? I mean, does it keep the tannin down? How? Yeah,
we're now talking about.
Without talking too much about
Argentina,
but yes,
you are every tangent under the sun tonight, aren't you? Right. Ellie's not going to come back.
Everyone else.
I'll come back. I quite like this. This is like how my brain works. So I'm happy with Hiru and white Malbec. I'm here for it.
One of us.
Anyway,
Excellent. Good
we
stuff.
move on to wine
okay.
6.
I'm going to have to.
We shall.
Ironically, the one that I don't want to down there.
Well, put it to the side then. That's why you have multiple glasses.
That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing.
So,
we're like an old married couple now, aren't we?
I love it. You've known each other for a long time.
Quite too long.
Yeah, I think when you go into business together, you start counting it like dog years. So we've known each other
176.
Yeah, worked together for 6 years. We've known each other for 419, I think it is now. Something like that.
Cheers, mate.
But anyway, right. So this is
a white Malbec.
So this is a wine that I absolutely adore.
I should be the tasting notes on. Sorry.
And I think Chile is a lot of things, but if you had to pick what was iconically Chilean in the world of wine, you would pick
Merlot.
And Carmenere, originally a French grape. It was one of the original grapes of Bordeaux. And I think what's interesting is you see it, you still see some of it in France, whatever. But I think Carmenere to Chile is what Malbec is to Argentina. It has come from a different place historically, but it has absolutely become its own thing, its own beast, its own element inside. It's not like other grapes that have traveled and people go, oh, I'm making this. It's originally a French grape or a Spanish grape or a whatever grape that's grown here. Chile has made Carmenere its absolute own thing. And there's lots of different styles, there's some light one, but I think this, if I needed to do a blind tasting, and blind tasting is tough, and I wanted to be able to know what Carmenere is, I think this is the perfect style. But I just think this is brilliant wine. And this is, we talk about wines being powerful, whatever it is, and tasting like forever. This is one of those wines that I just want to sit and sip and enjoy and not really talk too much about. So I'll let Ellie talk about it while I enjoy it.
And to be honest, we've probably, there's lots of things I love about all the wines that we've tasted today, but there's something specific about the Carmenere, because when I was speaking to Ventisquero and we were talking about working with each other, a friend says to me, she goes, Ellie, what's the hardest thing about Chile? And I was like, Carmenere. She was like, no, it's the fact that most people think that Chilean wine is cheap. So I got the wrong end of the stick on that. But for me, Carmenere was quite, I always found it quite challenging because of that kind of green bell pepper kind of quality to it, that herbaceousness that Carmenere can really have a tendency towards. And when I tasted, it wasn't this one that I tasted first, actually, but when I tasted the Carmenere that Ventisquero produced, I was like, phew, because that is the best Carmenere I'd ever had. Now, and because I liked it, I hadn't tasted most, you benchmark against all these different things. But when it comes to this wine, when it comes to the Obliqua, we've mentioned John Duval quite a lot through this, and rightly so. But this is where, for me, Felipe and John really kind of come together when it comes to our icons. And it's like everything they've tried to do, which is why it was so nice to hear you describe the wine like that, Jamie, is because it is exactly how I believe the wine to be, is we are trying to make, and not just for the awards, we're trying to make the best expression of Carmenere that is possible to make, from the grapes to the winery to the glass, like all of those things. So even if you didn't like it, it's like fashion. Even if you had the hat, the bag, or the clothes, or the shirt, or whatever it is that you love, and it's someone, but it's the best. It happens to be made the best by the best designer, by the best makers. Yeah, and that's what this wine is. This is absolutely everything that's been thought about this wine is how do we get Carmenere to be the best expression of Carmenere that we possibly can. And you taste it, and what an absolute joy. I always get so enthusiastic about it because, you know, life can be flipping tough. And then we get to do this. I get to talk about a Carmenere that's trying to be the best Carmenere in the world. And you taste it and you think, oh, I think they've pretty got it right. It's so blooming good. And, you know, you just go, how great is that to just sit back and, like you said, take a sip of that wine and think, I'm experiencing something like that.
Yeah.
Like, how bloody great's that?
It's bloody.
And how many times do we get to do that? Not that often.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
No, and I think this is the joy of, and I talk about it quite often. You know, you've got some wineries that make a wine, and that's what they have to do. And whether it's a good year, a bad year, or a different year, they've kind of got to play the hand that they're dealt. I think, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, where Ventisquero is, because you have these different tiers, you know, you can take the very best of the very best and go. And if you've not got the right thing to make the very best of the very best, you don't make it, and it might go into something else or into something else. It's not, we have to make what we make every year and do what we do every year. You have those opportunities to go, we've got this and we're going to make that. And if we don't think it's good enough to put this name on it, we're not going to put this name on it. And I think more wineries, given, you know, and yes, it's difficult to be a massive or medium-sized or big winery, but if you've got those opportunities to make a more accessible wine to get people to try and get into your brand, then you have, you know, the grey, which is a sense of place. And then you've got these icon wines, which are, hey, you know, I think it's brilliant. But for me, it's not, I'm not going to drink it every Tuesday night. It's a special wine for a special place, which comes with, and once again, it's all relative, but a relatively special price. But you can showcase that if I know I like the classic red, the great, wherever it goes, you will then trust that wine will be that because you've gone up the levels. And you might try the obliqua, and then, you know, you see the prices, they come, okay, you know what, I'd rather drink the grey all day, every day, because I want to have a few bottles of it. We go, well, I know that, do it. But I think if you turn around and go, you know, this is, we'll put the price up in a minute, but this is by far and away the most expensive wine of the night. But I think it showcases it. And I think when you talk about what goes into it, and that it comes from, you know, these small parcels and the effort and, you know, the tasting notes, and you can see where it is, I think it showcases why it's worth this. But I think what's really interesting with this is it comes back to, you can't just say Chilean Carmenere, because there's a £6 Chilean Carmenere, which could be very drinkable and absolutely fine. It does exactly what it says to do. But it ain't that.
It's not.
And
loads of wines, isn't it? You know.
But I think that's the thing. You know, we go to France and we'll be, oh, this is, you know, a Pays d'Oc Pinot Noir, and this is a Village Pinot Noir, this is a Premier Cru, this is a Grand Cru, and we talk about that. But I think sometimes when we go to the new world and the bigger, we just go grape country. This is an Australian Shiraz, or this is an Argentinian Malbec, and people go, why would I put a number on it for, why would I spend X number on a Chilean Carmenere because I can get one for a third of the price? Well, you need to look at it. And I think we need to start talking more about regions and places and, you know, the effort that goes into it. And, you know, well, we do. We don't need to have that in a supermarket because that's overly geeky.
It's a hard message
but there's
to get
that
across in
understanding.
a short period of time on the shelf.
It is. And this one, to talk about and again, I think, you know, we're saying about that, and that we've got the question on the oak on this. And what's really interesting about Carmenere, and Felipe won, I think it was the drink business, he's won like the Carmenere winemaker of the year. So, you know, he's known for his Carmenere, and he's a Chilean winemaker. So, good, you know, that's good news all around on that. But actually, this has seen 70% oak, second fill. And 30% in Foudre. So even with this wine, there is not new oak this. And Carmenere, which I didn't realize, is so susceptible to oak that if you put it in new oak, just like really, you know, just totally absorb it. So you get this careful treatment of this Carmenere. And so then you start to build that picture of what that then means for this. You know what I mean? Again, it's about how do we get that best expression? Well, it's not always about putting it in that new oak or that, you know, to make it obnoxious. It's like this wine has got this kind of like lovely sort of layers to it, that care of that oak. It's just, yeah, I just think it's fascinating. And I think you really you feel that in this wine, this sort of elegance, this kind of purity. And we always used to talk about it in when I first started in wines, you know, purity of fruit. But I think it's really something that our wines really have, this kind of real lovely purity.
I think this is a really good question. I've got my opinions, but I'll leave it to Ellie first.
So I think that, you know, this is, so what vintage have we got here today on this?
We're on 2020.
So I reckon this would be, yeah, you could, obviously we're drinking it now, it tastes absolutely delicious. 5 years, but 10, 15 years. I think this would be a really interesting wine, which would show, I think, again, because of that kind of careful oak usage, I think that fruit's just going to evolve in a really, really beautiful way. Nice. I don't know. What do you think, gents? What do you think on that?
I think a lot of it. I say anything with aging. It depends, you know, what you want out of your wine. Because I think right now it's delicious, it's bold, it's fruit forward. Yes, as it develops, I think you're going to get some nice tertiary flavors. There's enough fruit there that it can stay, and it is. I think in 15 years you'll still have a really good quality wine, but you'll have more earthiness, more mushroominess, and less of that bold fruit. Right now you've got lots, but. So it's kind of where you want to drink, have the wine on your wine drinking journey. So I don't think it's not going to be bad in 15 years.
Yeah.
But opening it now, obviously you're not going to go, oh, I wish I'd waited for that. It would just be different over the next few years. There's some wines that you go, you must drink it now or then or wait. You know, you don't drink a current vintage Barolo because it's not there. But this, I think, you know, it's ready to go now. It will just develop, and you know, if you're a wine lover, you'll know where it's going.
So it clearly, you know, it's one of those things where when you taste those wines which are designed to be drunk at sort of 6 years, if you have it, you know, first vintage, first year, it's going to be a bit of a big boy.
I think we've got some. So I think the vineyard started in about 2001. I think we've got some older vintages around, so it'd be interesting to be able to taste some of those. I mean, I'm not sure whether we've got them from the inception of the vineyard, but it would be quite interesting to maybe be able to taste back some of those.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I love this. So the Pangea is one of ours. And
brilliant wine.
So, and it's interesting this because actually when I was at 15, we had Montes. But I haven't tasted it for a really long time. So again, I thought that'd be an interesting tasting to be able to make it curious, taste really good Chilean together. Do you know what I mean?
Right, I've got a bottle of each downstairs.
We do have some downstairs. Yeah, well, you know, depending on how the day goes.
So do we
maybe do a bit of a Chilean tasting against those kind of like top ones would be a nice
do an Icons taste off.
We could. Can we do it blind?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh. So can we do it, so you know, or one of you know, and then we could do them blind. You could have like one of us from Ventisquero or not, but we could all taste them as a kind of like, you know, and then not just out of curiosity. Do you know what I mean? Not like being what I think we're going to be, but just.
So I think we should pop onto Wines of the Night so people can have a little look at that. But
that's right.
But,
thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, I thought you were trying to go pricing.
No, but while everyone has a quick vote, Wines of the Night, get your final questions in for Ellie. I just want to say thank you very much for joining us tonight. It's
been wonderful.
A lot of fun.
Pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you could hear me in the end. I was like, oh my God. So long.
So I just think, you know, if people have enjoyed tonight and got into Ventisquero, you know, obviously they can buy all the wines from us, but that's great. But what else can they expect? Because you know, there's a wide range. You know, what else is there? What's coming up? What's the future holding for Ventisquero?
I think actually what I like about this kind of question is I think, and maybe Jay, I'm saying Jay because I know you've been to Chile, but that I think for Chile as a whole, I think we're in quite an exciting point because we're a bit of an underdog at the moment. We're in a bit of a kind of crux point where I think Chile just needs a little bit more love. We need to, really understand about that, what's so special about Chile and what we've got to do. Now, Ventisquero, we're in such a great position in terms of the experimental wines we've got going on. We've got some other wines. We've got some experiments in Patagonia going on. So we've got lots of exciting things sort of behind the scenes which are happening. But generally as a whole, I think Chile, we've got quite a lot of work to do in terms of being able to support Chile as a kind of industry. And actually, because the wines represent such good value. Now, I know we've been tasting expensive wines tonight, but in terms of where those wines sit, I think they represent very good value. I don't know if that answers.
And I think that's an important thing. It's that difference between cost and value, because a £6 wine doesn't always offer value, and a £100 wine might, but sometimes doesn't either. So yeah, I think it is that comparison. And I go, if you drink, and we can look at the wines tonight and we'll pop the prices up. But where I want to be is if I sell you a bottle of wine for £20, and if I'd sold you the same bottle of wine for £30 and you were still happy, that shows good value for money. If I sell it to you for £20 and you go, well, it should have been a tenner, I've got it all wrong. So that's kind of where we want to be. So let's just pop the prices up quickly if we want to.
Well, we're still voting on wine of the night.
We're still voting.
They are coming in. There's one person left, so I'll let them do that. Someone said, where does the Pangea Syrah sit in your range?
The Pangea sits just above or similar to the Obliqua. So we have the Heru, we have the Vertice, or Vertice, but Vertice, and they is
another lovely bottle of wine.
It's so good as well. And then the Pangea, I just think, it's phenomenal as well. And then we have the Enclave. The Enclave is our sort of is our Cabernet, and that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was difficult decisions tonight to which one I was going to pick between the Vertice
and
the Obliqua. It's like
the Obliqua for me in terms of that archetypal Cabernet. There's the Vertice with the blend of being Syrah. So for me, I think the Obliqua is a fantastic choice tonight, and I'm really pleased that we're able to show it.
No, fantastic. We had a comment about the level of pepperiness. It's an interesting point, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't think it is. And again, I think what we're looking for with the grapes is we're looking for that sort of optimal ripeness. And because of the vineyard that we're growing, with Cabernet, you have to be really, really.
Oh, no, you're right.
We keep the yields in check. That means that the fruit is optimal, which means that we have less of that herbaceous quality, apparently. Yeah. So yes,
and not using the smaller barrels as well. Like so much spice can come from the barrel, like you say, overpower the Cabernet. So, another question here about how can Viola get her hands on older vintages?
So. I'm not sure how much is available on that, so maybe if I get back to you both on that, we'll
shout what's available.
We can,
and then we can pop an email out. That'll be brilliant.
That'll be brilliant. All right, so I am going to announce that you are going to be shocked to hear this, but guess what? The wine of the night was wine number 6, the Obliqua. But it was close, actually.
Yeah. Okay, well,
it was very close with the Chardonnay, which is really, really nice to see, because the Chardonnay did blow my socks off as well. And they were all actually, after that, there are no
about a tie. There's not, But I think that's the thing, they're all very, very different wines. And I'm sure if we did the same tasting again tomorrow, we'd have a different lineup of favorite wines. So I just think it just showcases the length and breadth of Chile under one brand is absolutely insane. So
mad.
Completely mad. Pop the prices up so everyone can see them.
Oh yeah, okay. Prices.
As you can see, the grey series is close enough to line priced. All sub £20, and then we take that little bit jump up to the Heru, and then the Cabernet is obviously up again. We have the wines in stock right now. If you want to get some, get them in, get them ordered, and we can get more. But I'll also we'll make some investigations out to some of the the older vintages.
Yeah, please, let's do it. That would be great. Yeah, thank you. I can't believe that's been so fun, and thank you so much for having us be able to do this. I feel like it was just such an honor, actually. So thank you very much.
No, it was an absolute pleasure, and it's lovely to get the stories from people who work with the winery day in, day out, and it's always nice to get more stories than just what's on the tech sheet. So it was brilliant to have you, and thank you so much. And there's been some great comments in the chat.
Fantastic comments.
Everyone else seems to have really enjoyed you being here as well.
Notes as well. So love it from everyone. Thank you.
But anyway, I think, is there any last bits in the chat?
One last message just come in there, I see. Amazingly varied selection tonight. Feared in advance, they might be a bit samey, not at all the case. Well done. No, I think that's my view as well. And Viola as well. Thank you. Fabulous tasting, and
they spelled Jamie wrong.
And that's also we're discussing the chat. Kathy does have her own winery as well, so but Kathy isn't representing as a winery competitor. She has been a long-term, from the start, pretty much member of our club, and has gone through the WC diploma, and is a wonderful, lovely person. Fantastic wines tonight. All enjoyed immensely. We do not have a quiz tonight because, well, we didn't know what to ask. So
we're having a deep.
We thought we'd have a deep and meaningful instead, and we've already gone over time. So there we are. But thank you all, and Ellie, it was lovely to get the chance to chat with you. I'm sure we will all see each other around again. And
the
more buy some Ventisquero.
The more Ventisquero you buy, the quicker Ellie will become back to do these the high end icon tasting. So it's down to you guys at home.
Thank you, boy. Yeah, let's do it.
Brilliant. Well, have a great night. Thank you so much, everyone.
Take care, all. Good night.